Hey everybody, hope you've had a great week on the water. I'd just like to take a minute to introduce this week's Paddler's Journal, our weekly Paddle Monster newsletter to you. This week we've got an article we're sharing with you about dealing with aches and pains. Probably a good time to share it with being the end of June. Everyone's been on the water for a while now, and if you're training hard, you're going to be dealing with sore muscles, maybe some sore joints, that type of thing. And so we talk a little bit about the different types of athletes. Some athletes are really robust and they can plow right through little aches and pains, and others are much more sensitive to them. So we talk about these different types of athletes and how they can deal with the aches and pains they're feeling. We talk about the difference between just the usual sore muscles and things like that you can expect from training, and then actual injuries and strategies for identifying what you're dealing with, and then of course what approach you should take to deal with them, and if it's an injury, dealing with it as quickly as possible. For those that are training with us, this week is a recovery week, which means the workload is reduced considerably. This is important. These regular recovery weeks are really important, not only because they ensure that the hard training weeks can be done with the highest level of quality possible, and we should recognize that it's the quality of the work you do, not just completing the work, that determines what training stimulus you get from it. And obviously, the better the training stimulus, the more likely it is to generate improvement. So periodic recovery is really important to ensure that the hard weeks are done with the highest quality possible. But they're also important to make sure that over the course of a long paddling season, that you don't burn out, that you're as strong or stronger at the end of the season, when the races tend to get more important, than you are early in the season or in the middle of the season. So it is a recovery week. Next week the program intensifies, which means that the focus of the work will shift from development of specific aerobic base to the development of higher level aerobic abilities, as well as anaerobic abilities and neuromuscular speed. So the workouts will get shorter, but they'll be much more intense. And so again, it's important that you're somewhat fresh for that change in focus in the training program. And then for our those that are training with us, our recommended reading this week is part one on a 3-week series on the human energy system. So we look at how we produce energy for muscle that results in muscle contraction, or that's used for muscle contraction. We look at the 3 main energy systems and how they interact when we're paddling. Various distances, whether it's we're doing a start, a sprint, or a distance race. I've always felt that it's better to have an understanding of how your body's working when you're training and racing, because then knowing what's going on in your body allows you to probably target your training better, so that you can again generate more improvement, and ultimately that leads in better performance. So that's the focus this week. It's a bit of an introduction on the human energy systems. Next week, we'll look at training those energy systems. And then finally, in week 3, we will look at your race from the perspective of the energy systems. We'll look at pacing your race and managing lactic acid, which is if you're starting to work anaerobically, becomes a limiting factor in your ability to perform. So that's what's in store in this week's newsletter and over the next couple of weeks for those that are training with us. If you are training with us, fantastic. I'm super excited to be working with you, and enjoy when you reach out and ask questions or look for modifications to the program or anything of that nature. And if you aren't training with us, or if you're not even subscribed just for the content to Paddle Monster, then I'd invite you to consider doing so. The content that we're sharing here in the newsletters is an example of the real wealth of content that we have on the site. And so if you're finding these articles and posts that we're sharing in the newsletter interesting and informative, there's a whole lot more of that type of thing actually on the site for those that subscribe. So here's wishing everybody a great week on the water. Happy paddling, and I'll talk to you next week.